So I know at the top of my YouTube channel there is a banner that says I make videos every Tuesday, and I just wanted to come out and say now I will be editing that banner so it says I will try to make videos every Tuesday, because here we are 6 months after my last video and a good 3 weeks into the new year, but I am here today to talk about the top 5 books I read in 2020. My reading goal in 2020 was to read 50 books. That's been my goal for like 3 years now, and I still have not reached that ultimate dream of 50 books in 12 months. In 2020, I read 35 books. But now I want to talk about the top 5 books I read. Coming in at number 5, we have Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I love reading books about mythology. Last semester I took a class in mythology and got to read and try a lot of different books about that. And this book is totally different. In Neil Gaiman's book, he talks about it in the prologue. He sort of took his own artistic liberties with the myths while trying to do his best to retell it. And it just, even though maybe was not as academic as it could have been, it made it so much quicker to read, so much more engaging to read, and I couldn't put it down. And I still feel like I learned something, somehow, about Norse mythology. My number 4 book of the year was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Wow, I've recommended this book to like a million people because I can't stop thinking about it. It was so beautiful. I couldn't put it down because of the sort of like dual mysteries happening in the book. Evelyn Hugo is this celebrity, obviously inspired by like Marilyn Monroe or like a Meryl Streep type, and this book is her giving an interview and explaining the story of her life. And one of the biggest controversies throughout her career has been the fact that she's been married 7 times, hence the title, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And finally in this interview she decides like she's gonna totally tell the truth and tell all. I think that you will love this book if you love like celebrity gossip, which I do, if you love brilliantly told stories about family and what it means to be married. It was just so incredible. I can't recommend it enough. My number 3 book of the year is actually a book recommended to me by a dear friend, and that is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. Oh my god. Uprooted is a new adult fantasy because it does get a little steamy in some chapters, and it tells the story of this very, very old but looks very handsome and young wizard named the Dragon, and he protects this town as kind of like a feudalism situation. But in exchange for protecting them with his magic, every like 10 years he takes a young woman from this town and she has to go live with him, sort of like inspired by like Belle in Beauty and the Beast. One of my favorite things about this book, besides the romance, which I think is written so beautifully, is the fact that the importance of friendship between women, which is like my favorite theme in all books. It's like female friendship is so rarely talked about, but when it is, it's always like, let's all be girl bosses together. And I think in Uprooted, I loved that their friendship had problems the same way that, you know, the romantic relationship in the story had problems, and it was fun that the author explored both of those relationships in the book and gave them both like an adequate amount of time and challenges to overcome. Alright, my second favorite book of 2020, I actually made a video reviewing this book already. I'll link it down below, I guess. And that is the book Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. It was beautiful, it was perfect. I love Cassandra Clare, love her style. You cannot read this book if you have not read the 20 other Cassandra Clare books, so I won't even jump into the summary. My number 1 book of 2020 is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. So, TJ Klune, one of my new favorite authors. I loved it so much. I cried, I laughed. So House in the Cerulean Sea takes place in a world where magical creatures live among humans, though the government is like all humans, and so there's a lot of discrimination against magical creatures. The main character is this human, like 40-year-old man named Linus, and Linus is a child protective service worker, basically, for this human government, and he works in the Department of Magical Children. So he goes around to these different orphanages that house all these young magical creatures, and he makes sure that there's like no abuse going on, you know how like CPS does. I think that the world building could have used some work, but that's so fine with me. Like by the end, I was like, I just want to read more of what I'm reading. It was so character driven and like really focused on the relationships between the characters, which is like all I want to read anyway. So the like lack of sort of like world around them didn't even bother me by the end, because I thought it was so heartwarming and beautiful and exactly what everyone in the world should read right now. I can't recommend it enough. Best book of 2020 and definitely in like my new top 5 of all time. So that concludes my top 5 books of 2020. Thank you so much for watching, and I will make more videos in 2021. Yes, manifesting it now. Just you wait. They're coming.